Welcome to the Future Finance Freedom podcast, where you get to know about Web3 and cryptos, how the internet and financial system is getting transformed. So, here we try to break it in a simplified way so that you can make your way in this new wave of internet. I'm Rashi, your podcast host, back with our another special guest, Pradeep sir. He's the co-founder at Obvious Wallet, and in this episode, we are going to talk everything about crypto wallets. So, welcome, sir. How are you doing today?
GM, hey Rashi, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. It's a beautiful morning and I'm doing great. I did all things product for obvious.
So, I'm very excited to have you, and please introduce yourself and a little bit about your background, please.
Oh, sure. So I have been building internet products for the last 2 decades, right? So I work with various organizations. I used to work with the IT department, Government of Karnataka, long ago. And then from there, I moved into Yahoo, where I built software for Southeast Asia. Mainly, that was the time when mobile was taking over. I started building a whole lot of mobile stuff, right? From Yahoo, then I moved into Flipkart, where I worked as a product manager for the data platform and saw how e-commerce evolved from the early days to where it is today, right? So I got a front row seating to understanding how things evolve. So that was a very, very wonderful journey. And then from Flipkart, then I got an opportunity to work at Ola. Ola, again, during the best of the times when Ola and Uber were on a head-to-head fight. Of course, they're still on a fight today. But there I was responsible for building product for the software platforms. A tremendous experience working with various people across the country. Right, so that I did for about 2 years. And from Ola, then I got an opportunity to work at Grab. I moved to Singapore from there, right? And again, I did ride hailing, logistics, food delivery kind of thing. I built maps for Grab. That was for about 2 years in Singapore. And then I came back to India and then took a small break, became an entrepreneur in residence at IIM Bangalore. So I did my EJMP program from IIM. So I thought I'll just go back to my alma mater and have a few startups out. So that's what I did for a year. And then from there, I joined Swiggy as a VP of products for the fulfillment thing, which is essentially like the minute you pay until the doorbell rings, everything that happens on the platform or on the ground was done by my team. So I did that for about 7 months. And then the Web3 bug bit me. And in November 2021, I resigned and then I formally started with Obvious on April 2022. Right. So it's been almost a year and a half right now, this journey. I'm enjoying it so far. And Web3, as you know, keeps you on your toes and you get to learn something new every day. So
Yeah.
that's in brief about my journey. Yep. And just to summarize, I think my specialization is mainly in building consumer internet products, especially large scale consumer internet products. And I love building things on mobile because mobile is the most personal thing people have. So that is a product that people have in their hands 24/7. So that's what I love to do. That's what I'm passionate about.
Great, great. So you are bringing a big Web2 experience into Web3, and this is very helpful for scaling the products in Web3 also. Like you have worked in big consumer brands like Flipkart, Swiggy, and Ola Uber. So that's a great help for the Web3 industry that you have been providing. So we would like to know a bit about what is Obvious Smart Wallet.
Oh, sure, definitely. So even before we go there, like I'll try and talk about what is not obvious and then see how obvious is the answer. Right? So if in case you look at the world of crypto, when I got started in Web3, everybody said, hey, you know what, you just need to download MetaMask, right? And then go through the steps. I went through the steps. There are 14 steps for me to get started. As soon as I downloaded MetaMask, said, okay, fine, give me a password. Okay, fantastic. I did that. Then it gave me some 12 words and said, now you
Horrible.
memorize this, right? And then it said, no, I'm going to quiz you to say, have you remembered these 12 words? Otherwise, I'm not letting you in. And then they showed me a video to say how critical is it, how important is it for you to manage your keys and all of that, right? And then when I came in, it greeted me with a blank slate. It said, you have $0 and then said, do whatever you want, right? And then I realized, oh man, probably MetaMask was built by developers for developers because they know what they want. Whereas
Right.
when you try and bring a product like this to a consumer like you and me, right, or my friend, like, and she is going to say, hey, what is this? What am I supposed to do here? Tell me something that I can do with it. So what was happening is Web3 was exploding everywhere, but it was non-obvious to most people, right? Unless and until you are a geek or one of the early degens who went in with a lot of effort, energy, education, and research, only then you could go in. It was not something like, hey, just download Facebook and get started, right? Like, or download Twitter and get started. So we thought, how about we build a product that people can just download and get started? So that was our plan to say, hey, how would we build something that makes Web3 obvious for people? So if you download Obvious today, right, it just takes you through a series of steps to say, hey, I'll create a wallet for you. Now let's get this thing backed up. And now let's help you add some money. And even when you say add money, it doesn't simply say add money. It gives you various options. They give you 6 different options, right? And then once you get in, you say, hey, now we can do a first swap. We take you to step-by-step process. So anybody who is new to Web3 who doesn't have an idea how to get started can get started with Obvious, right? So what is Obvious? Obvious is nothing but a smart contract wallet that comes with a very, very easy to use, intuitive UI, which is extremely safe to use. We'll talk about safety down the line. And also which is very, very convenient for you to do your day-to-day Web3 activities, right? So that's in short what Obvious is. It's a mobile app. It's available on both Android and iOS platforms. And please feel free to give it a try.
Great, great. So like you're providing the easiest version where like day-to-day consumers can transact crypto and they can understand how these wallets work. So this is a very great thing, like I would say.
Exactly. And the other thing that Obvious also tries to do is it tries to remove this issue of handling so many tokens and handling so many chains, right? For example, if you look at Obvious, it comes with 17 chains inbuilt by the time you start. It comes with 7,000 plus tokens inbuilt by the time you start. So you don't have to worry about importing a token, adding a chain, understanding an RPC and all that. It's just ready to get going. Yep. So essentially, we're trying to make things as obvious as possible.
Yeah, like this is the very easiest feature for everyone, I would think, because whenever we trade any new token or maybe like between, say, you can say top 100 or 200, we have to go and import their address in the MetaMask and any other wallet. So this is the very good thing. So like sir, there are various types of crypto wallets, like people refer like hardware wallets, software wallets, and mobile wallets. So can you please explain the key differences between these types and how they are different?
Oh, definitely. So at a very high level, there are two hierarchies, right? We call them as cold wallets and hot wallets. What are hot wallets? Hot wallets are the ones which are connected and online all the time. Cold wallets are the ones which are air gapped and kept aside. So under cold wallets, there are multiple mechanisms. So there is an age-old paper wallet where you essentially take an air gap machine, create a wallet. So essentially, let's take one step back, right? To understand what do you mean by a wallet. Wallet is nothing but a place where you hold your private key. And why do you need the private key? For you to do any transaction on any blockchain, you need to have a private key to sign with them. So it goes back to the typical cryptographic pair of a public key and a private key. Public key is your public address that you have, and then there's a private key using which you sign transactions. So the wallet is nothing but a digital infrastructure or a digital app that holds your software. Right? In a cold wallet, you can also say, hey, you know what? I will essentially print my keys on a paper and keep it with me. So whenever I need to do a transaction, I can use that and go to the transaction. So that was one of the very early ones. And then came other cold wallets like hardware wallets like a Ledger or a Trezor, right? Or many of these things which allow you to hold your key. And whenever you want to transact, you can then connect and then go through the transaction. And now when you move to the hot wallets, again, there are different mechanisms there, right? So there are software wallets which are built into the browsers. We call them as browser extension wallets that are available as extensions that you can install it on a browser and then use it, which means it makes it extremely easy for you to interact with things on your laptop or your desktop. Because whenever you're browsing a Web3 app, you can just say, hey, connect wallet, and it's immediately available. The second version of that is the mobile apps, right, in which you have an app on your mobile, and then you can interact with things on your mobile. And then you can also interact with dApps from your mobile, either from within an inbuilt browser in the app, in the wallet, or you can essentially use a protocol called as Wallet Connect to connect it to a desktop app and go through the transactions, right? And even within this, there are multiple different mechanisms, right? So in the way in which you hold the key provides differentiation, right? So there are a few wallets which use MPC. MPC stands for multi-party computation. Essentially, what you're doing is, hey, you know what? I'm not so very good at managing keys. Why don't somebody else manage it for me? Right. So that's where you go with, for example, if you go to an exchange, what they do is, hey, don't worry, Rashi, just create an account on a CoinDCX or right, or a CoinSwitch Kuber or WazirX, right? You log in with your Gmail, you give your phone number, you put in your authenticator, and boom, they handle your keys. You don't have to worry with it. All that you need to do is log in with your phone number and Gmail and all of that stuff. Right. So that is one. So which is called the MPC. They essentially keep multiple copies of the keys, and they have a mechanism to be able to sign transactions on your behalf. So that is one. Second thing is, hey, you call it as non-custodial wallet. That is what is a custodial wallet, right? Then there is a non-custodial wallet, which is essentially people take self-custody, right? So what is self-custody? Self-custody is where you take control of your own keys. So for example, Obvious is a self-custody wallet. MetaMask is a self-custody wallet. Trust Wallet is a self-custody wallet. So what you do here is you generate your private keys, right? And then you use it by yourself. So which means you are responsible for safeguarding of your keys, right? And why is this very critical? Because I'm sure all of us have heard of this idiom, not your keys, not your coins, right? So unless and until you have your keys with you, you don't have your coins with you, right? Of course, if in case you trust something like a centralized exchange like a CoinDCX or a CoinSwitch, of course, they do a good job of maintaining it, handling it for you. But then again, the idea is it is always good to have it, to take responsibility for one's own finances and hold self-custody, right? It's extremely good to use the centralized exchanges to get started, to do on-ramp, off-ramp, to do trading and all of that stuff. But if in case you are into hodling, it's like, hey, I'm going to be an investor, I hold crypto for long, I strongly suggest to go to the self-custody options. If the volume is more, please use a cold wallet, buy a hardware wallet, it will be worth the investment. But if the volume is less, or if the usage is very high, then probably you can go with a mobile wallet like Obvious. Yeah.
So, sir, as you mentioned about this MPC wallet, so is it same as a multi-signature wallet or is it different from that?
Okay, so technically there are two different things. Multi-signature is basically what is called as a capability where you need multiple signers to sign off a transaction. Right. So MPC also has something like that. It is multiple keys, right, which could be used to sign a transaction. Here, what is happening is a multi-sig is typically used in organizations like a DAO. Let's say DAO has a treasury and they want to authorize a payment to someone. And technically, you do not want only one person to run the whole show. So DAO is usually democratized. So they will have multiple signers, right? For example, there'll be let's say 3 or 5 signers. Imagine there are 5 private keys controlling a particular wallet. That is called a multi-sig wallet, which is a multiple signature wallet. So which means if there is a threshold of 3, which means unless 3 people of those 5 people sign a transaction, the transaction doesn't go through, right? So that is a multi-sig wallet. Like for example, the famous example for that is Safe. Safe is a wallet that is used by a whole lot of DAOs to manage their treasury operations, and usually they set up a N of M kind of a setup, like 3 or 5 or 5 or 7 and things like that, so that unless and until you get N number of signatures of the M members, the transaction will not go through.
Great. So like multi-signature is like one or other party has to sign the transaction to approve that particular transaction, and multi-party like MPC wallet is like storing keys at multiple places.
Yes. So essentially, which means somebody else stores your keys and they can do transactions on your behalf. Yep.
Great. So, sir, like as right now in the crypto market, there are hundreds of crypto wallets right now, but most of them are not user friendly, and people still struggle in those different wallets because of a number of reasons. So, with Obvious technology, or you can say Obvious wallet, how do you aim to provide an easier and smartest crypto wallet? Like tagline is also like smart as you.
Yep.
So, like how?
Okay, so it's a fantastic question, right? So if in case you look at it, I think every wallet is user friendly, just that they appeal to different set of users. For example, if you look at MetaMask, I think it's extremely developer friendly. A lot of developers use MetaMask because it allows you to have testnet, it allows you to add custom tokens, it allows you to add custom RPCs, you're building something on a testnet, you're testing something new, right? The best way to do that using MetaMask. So in your opinion, I think MetaMask is really good for development. and developers are the core users for MetaMask. So it is user friendly for that set of users,
Developers.
right? So
Yeah.
developers. So similarly, if in case you look at many other wallets, right? So they all have their own core audience. If you look at Trust Wallet, their core audience is exchange users because Trust Wallet is also like owned by Binance, right? And Binance has a whole lot of users who say, hey, you know what, I want to try something in a self-custody way. And Binance said, hey, fine, go try Trust Wallet. And of course, now they have SafePal as well that they're promoting. But the idea is every wallet caters to a clear set of distinct user base, right? So when we started looking at OBS, we said, hey, there is this user base whom we let us call them as crypto newbies or crypto novices, right? Who want to get started, who want to explore the world of Web3, but they can't use something like a MetaMask because as we talked about, it requires you to add chains, tokens, and all of this stuff, developer friendly. Or they can't just start with something like a Trust Wallet because Trust Wallet requires you to understand tokens and switch things on and all of that kind of stuff as well. Right? And we said, hey, what if in case we look at the whole thing from the ground up to say, what does a new user want? A typical new user is going through three phases, right? So first, they try to understand and educate themselves to say, hey, what is happening in here, right? So which is the education phase to say, hey, what is Web3, what is crypto? Then they understand, oh, probably I need to buy some ETH, or I need to buy some NFT, or I can do some DeFi and all of that stuff, right? Second thing is they essentially start exploring to say, hey, what should I do? And typical exploration comes from two mechanisms. One is a self-guided exploration or through someone else who guides them to get started. So if in case you have a friend and she will come and say, hey, Rashi, just use MetaMask, it works for me. And when you install, you say, I do not know how to use this. You call her back and then she's going to say, don't worry, here is what you need to do. So that is the guidance you get. But if in case you want to go on your own, right, and that's where obvious comes in the picture to say, hey, don't worry, you just get things started and we'll help you get things going, right? So the idea here is obvious is essentially positioned at users who are smart enough to say, hey, I can take responsibility to learn and educate myself, as well as I can take responsibility to manage crypto myself. I do not want to go with what the crowd says. I'm an individual. I know what I want to do. And I just need a tool that will help me to get to where I want. Right? And obviously try to be as unobtrusive as inclusive as possible. And it tries to make things really, really simple. So the reason why we say call it a smart wallet is, for example, what do people do, right? So they do a bunch of transactions. They do things like swapping and bridging. So when you want to do a swap, the natural tendency is to say, let me go look at different dexes and see where do I get the best price. Because Uniswap will provide one price, 1inch will provide another price, and the quick swap will provide another. So I say, man, which of them is the cheapest, fastest, right? So how about we essentially provide all of those things out up in front, right? So whenever you want to swap something, Obvious essentially talks to all of these dexes and says, hey, by the way, Rashi, here is what it costs on 1inch, here is the time it takes, here is what it costs on Uniswap, the time it takes, here is what it costs on QuickSwap and all of that stuff. So you can, and then of course we'll provide a default option where we've chosen the best one. You can go with it, or you can also go and change that. So the idea is smart people look for value, smart people look for efficiency, right? And smart people look to get the alpha, right? So which means we try to build all of these things in the app so that they can get it at their fingertips. Right? And the last thing is, of course, there is a tremendous amount of anxiety when you do things in Web3. Because unlike in a Web2, you press a button, automatically things happen. Here, blockchains don't work that way, right? The typical block times are in seconds and sometimes in minutes, right? And extremely anxiety causing, especially when you're doing a bridge, you're bridging money from one chain to another. It takes a few minutes, and you do not know what is happening. Right? You're trying to say, hey man, I just put the money in here. When is it going to come there and all that? So what we did was, based on our previous experience, we built something like a food delivery kind of a tracking experience. So you have a progress bar which shows that, hey, it is still going on. There is an ETA, or for example, the cab hailing or food delivery. Both of them tell you that, hey, what is the current state? The driver is coming towards you. He's going to take 7 more minutes to reach you. Here's the route he's taking and all of that. Essentially, that reduces the anxiety. So we do something similar here. So what we do is we batch the entire transaction. We say, hey, first approve, then swap, then bridge. By the way, here is the progress bar. It is always there. And then we say, hey, notify me once complete. So that you don't have to be stuck on the screen. You can just go and do other things while this happens in the background. And once it is done, you get a notification and then you carry on with your day.
So, like, if we do in any other wallet, like, we have to be stuck on the screen of explorers, maybe like each explorer or BSC explorer, to see like how many blocks are confirmed or everything. But
Exactly.
you are providing the tracking progress bar, like how the transaction is getting done. This is
Exactly.
very good.
Exactly.
This is good. So, like, as storing crypto other than exchanges is often considered as storing your seed phrase securely. And this
Hmm.
is not easier for everyone. And there have been like stories in the past where people have lost their seed phrase. Like we have many stories where people lost their wallets, maybe hardware wallet or like software wallet. So how does this obvious wallet address the issue of seed phrase management and recovery, and what options do users get while creating their wallet, and if they ever need to regain the access for the wallet?
Yep, I think fantastic question. Actually, I'm also one of the people who have lost their seed phrase. I wrote it down in some piece of paper and then I do not know where I kept it. And then I try to put it on email, and of course, people wiser than me caution me that hey, don't put it on email because if the email gets compromised, then naturally, like I would email my own seed phrases to myself, and they said, hey, that will compromise you, so be careful. So I'm not doing that anymore, right? So seed phrase security is of paramount importance because if in case you lose your seed phrase, you essentially lose access to your wallet and all the funds that you have inside that,
Right.
right? So to solve for this, of course, there are two mechanisms. One is to say, hey, educate the user on the importance of the seed phrase and how do they maintain it, manage it. So what happens in obvious is as soon as you create a wallet, we nudge you to back it up, right? Which is to say, hey, either store a seed phrase and or essentially use a mechanism which called as seedless backup and recovery, right? So what is seedless backup and recovery? So when the wallet is created, right, there is a seed phrase, there's a private key underneath. So what we do is there is a technique called as cryptographic technique called as Samir secret key sharing. So what does it do is it takes your seed phrase, generates the private key, and then creates three distinct shards out of it. What is a shard? Shard is nothing but a piece, right? It takes the whole thing and creates three pieces. The beauty of this cryptographic technique, the semi-secret key technique, is you need only two of three to rebuild the whole thing. You may have three pieces. Let's call it as n of m. You have m pieces. You only need n pieces to be able to put it back together. So what we have done is we have taken 2 out of 3 as the threshold for us, right? And when the user creates the wallet, we say, hey, you know what? You can either go for a seedless backup option, in which you don't have to worry about remembering the seed phrase, but you can do something very, very easy and intuitive. So we'll create these three shards, and then we'll ask you to store one on your cloud. So you essentially put it on a Google Cloud, right? And again, if somebody hacks into Google Cloud, they just get one piece. They
Yeah.
won't get the other two pieces, so they can't get anything going. But the advantage of Google Cloud is it is something that is available on every phone, and people already use it to store photos,
Right.
documents, and various things. And it is something like, hey, some text which has no text, which you can't make sense of, which is available as a small file in your Google account. So that is one. Second, what we do is we generate a QR code based on this, and we ask you to share it with your friend, right? A trusted contact, right? It could be somebody in your family, somebody in your friend circle. So essentially, you share it with them so that even if in case you lose access to your phone, you have a friend. It's like phone a friend and say, hey, friend, I lost it. Can you please give it back to me? And they can share the QR code. You can scan it and get started. And the last one is we store the third shard on the device itself, right? So which means if in case you lose access to the friend, which we don't want you to, but sometimes those things do happen, like you lose a friend and you should be able to get it back from a device itself. So between the cloud, device, and the friend, you should be able to get 2 of 3 and be able to restore the wallet and get it back in, right? So that's how obvious makes it really easy. And this is something that people are doing every day, like sharing a QR code with a friend is something that we do. And we say, oh, please do safekeeping, right? And that's the way it works. Cloud, social, and device, and that's how we do it. And to be very honest, I think that's been one of the most popular features in the wallet. A lot of people have gone in and done this backup because it makes it easy for them. Yep, and they don't have to worry about writing it down or storing it on somewhere and then losing it out and all that.
Great, great. So, like, you're providing 3 options for people to securing, and out of those 3, like, they can use 2 for recovering or restoring their
Exactly.
wallets.
So when they're doing the backup, they have to back up all 3. And when doing a restore, any 2 out of these 3 are essential, are good enough to recover the wallet.
Great, great. So, like, yeah, this is like more security providing to the users. Like, in case they lose one option, they have other two to regain the
Exactly.
access to the
Yep. So
assets.
we call it as security with convenience.
Hmm.
Right. So seed phrase are really secure, but if in case
Hmm.
it puts the onus of securing it on you. Here we
Hmm.
are essentially saying, hey, let's distribute it across three places. The onus of securing goes across these three. So it is like distributing the risk, right? Don't put
Hmm.
all your eggs in the same basket.
Yeah.
Instead, distribute them so that, hey, if something happens, you have two of three to recover.
Yeah, and all the three options are very convenient, like sharing on cloud or maybe sharing your with your friend, and like very convenient options as we do in other apps also. So this
Exactly.
is
Exactly.
so like as I was exploring the website, so Obvious Wallet have another cool feature to pay gas fee in any token, and like as gas fee in cryptocurrency transactions can be sometimes frustrating for users, and like this has been like for me personally also when I was starting to learn how to do the transactions. So how does the option to pay gas fee in any token elevates this uh, issue of gas fee, and especially in terms of cost and convenience in the DeFi space?
Oh, definitely, right? So especially when you look at DeFi or NFT or any of these Web3 stuff,
Hmm.
right? For you to do any transaction on any chain, you need to have the native currency to pay for it. So what a
Hmm.
native currency? On the Ethereum mainnet, it's Ethereum coin.
Hmm.
On the Polygon POS network, it is the Matic coin, right? So unless and until you have Matic on Polygon or ETH on Ethereum, you can't do any transactions on that. So that is how the EOA wallets or what is called the
Hmm.
externally owned accounts work, right? But let us take a simple example, right? So you want to do something, let's say you want to mint an NFT on Polygon, right? And that's how I started. I thought, hey man, I just buy ETH and things are done. And I bring some ETH and I'm saying I want to buy, and it's not happening because it's saying there's no Matic. Now I need to convert that ETH back into Matic and get started, right? So very interestingly, about a year ago, I think there's a new standard that emerged called as the EIP 4337. EIP stands for Ethereum Improvement Proposal. And this standard essentially brought in a new mechanism called as account abstraction. So account abstraction is an umbrella term which essentially brings in a bunch of interesting things. Right? So it brings in concepts like user ops, bundlers, and paymasters, right, which allow you to do things, right? Interestingly, so imagine you are at the simplest analogy that I can give is imagine, hey, you are at a restaurant, right? You are ordering something, and instead of you going all the way to the kitchen and saying, hey, I need some masala dosa, something like that, you ask a server in the restaurant to say, hey, I need this. So what does he or she do? They essentially collect all of these user requests to say, I need dosa, I need coffee, I need ABCD, right? And collect all of them, bundle them together, and take it to the kitchen, right? And then you may say, hey, why don't you just deliver it to my home, all right? And then the restaurant says, sir, you are a very, very loyal customer, right? Why don't I pay the delivery fee for you, right? So which is essentially what is called as a sponsored gas, right? Which is the institution is sponsoring gas for you to transact with them. So that is made possible by this concept called as a paymaster. So the paymaster can be funded by the DApp, which is asking you to interact on it. So you as Rashi will go into a DeFi protocol and want to do some transaction. You're supplying some money or taking it out or staking something, and the gas for that can be sponsored by that DeFi protocol itself. So it makes it very easy so that users don't have to revert gas. They just do the transactions. Or alternatively, they may say, hey, you know what? We will allow you to pay for this in a bunch of tokens apart from the native token as well. So imagine on Polygon, you have Matic and you can pay. Imagine for some reason you don't have Matic, but you have USDC. Then say, don't worry, just give me USDC, right? It is like going to an airport counter in like a Singapore or somewhere, right? And then you say, hey, I do not have Singapore dollars. Then they say, do you have US dollars? Fine, give it to me. I'll take it, right? So or you go to any airport, right? You can do a forex exchange there to say, hey, I just came back from US, I don't have rupees. They say, go to the forex counter, get change, and then you can do the whole thing. Right? So which means there are these scenarios where paymasters allow people to say, hey, don't worry if you don't have the native token. Instead, bring in any token you have and I will do the thing. And of course, they'll charge a small convenience fee, naturally, like all forex traders do, right, to allow you to do that. Right. So the idea here is you are enabling people to freely transact either by getting the dApps to sponsor the transactions or by enabling the user to pay with whatever token they have. So which means the idea here is, if you have any token in your wallet, any non-native token in your wallet, you should be able to transact with that without any issue, right? So that is one thing. The second thing, which is very interesting, is it allows you to batch transactions, right? What do you mean by batch transaction? So let's say in any DeFi protocol, let us take a simple example of like, let us say, hey, you want to be able to supply some tokens on Aave, right? So you have some USDC, you're getting 3% APY per year, you want to supply it on Aave, and you're on Matic, or which is the Polygon network, right? So technically you're doing two transactions. One is that you approve USDC for usage, and second is you supply USDC. So both of these are independent transactions. If you're doing it in MetaMask, it'll ask you to do two signatures, one signature to approve and one signature to supply, right? Whereas with a smart contract wallet like OBS, what does it do is it batches both of these transactions. It asks you for only one signature, right? And then the transaction goes through, right? And the beauty here is, given it is a smart contract transaction, if by chance any one of these don't go through, then the whole thing is reversed. Whereas in a MetaMask, one of them is already signed, it's gone, right? And second one is stuck and you can't do anything with that, right? So here you get double advantage. One is that you get a convenience of one click, and second, you get the convenience, or you get the surety of, what do I say, the reliability of the transaction, the atomicity of transaction. It definitely does go through, or the whole thing gets reversed.
So, sir, you mentioned like we can pay gas fee in any token. So, do you recommend specifically like which token should we use for that?
See, by nature, the idea is to use any token that you have. But typically, what I prefer, this is my personal choice, is to be using stable coins, because stable coins maintain their value relative to the fiat to which they are pegged. Like, let us say USDC is pegged to US dollar. Whereas in case you use an ETH, there is an opportunity that you may lose some ETH that you pay for fees, and ETH essentially goes to the moon tomorrow, and then you say, man, I could have saved. Right. So whereas probably you'll not see so much variation in case of your stable coin, right? So that's how I personally look at it. I always prefer to, like, for me, ETH and Matic are for stacking, right? And not for stacking and staking, right? I like to stack them, which is accumulate. I like to stake them, which is like, hey, I want to be able to earn yields of them rather than spend them on gas.
Yeah, because like ETH is a very good asset, and like it has been in the top too. So like paying sometimes gas fee can be the huge next day if we see the prices are inflating.
Exactly. So it's like saying, hey, you have some gold with you and you have some rupee with you. What do you want to pay for coffee with?
Definitely
Given
rupee.
Both options are available.
Yeah. Definitely rupee, everyone would go.
Exactly.
Yeah, great. So like DeFi apps often require multiple transactions, like 5 to 6 steps for one single transaction. And like to approve one single transaction, 5 to 6 steps can be a barrier for newbies. Also, so one-click transactions have the potential to streamline the user experience significantly. This is, I believe. So, what benefits does the streamlined approach of one-click transaction fee activities?
I think two things. One, as I said earlier, it provides you convenience and reliability. So what do you mean by convenience? Instead of me signing multiple times, right, you can do once. So it's not just signing multiple times, you are waiting between transactions. So imagine there are 3 or 4 transactions. There is a approve, there is a swap, there is a bridge, then there is a supply. Imagine this is the chain of things. For every transaction you sign and then you wait and sign and then you wait. It will take few minutes, right? And nobody has those many minutes to sit in front of your mobile or your laptop and do all of that and do multiple signs. Instead, you with a smart contract wallet, you say, hey, do this one click, and then the whole thing goes in and you get notified once it is done. And because of the atomicity feature, the whole thing doesn't work if in case the thing doesn't go through, right? So that way you get the reliability, also you get the convenience, and things like DeFi are major beneficiaries from smart contract wallet. The other very interesting thing that comes in is, imagine there is something like an SIP, right, which is like a systematic investment plan, right? So where you say, hey, you know what? Hey, smart contract, I approve you to take say $100 from my wallet per week and invest it into this token, right? Imagine that is the one. So typically, how would SAP work in a self-custody? Of course, in a centralized manner, it works very easily
Yeah.
because they hold control. In self-custody, you need to go every Saturday morning, open a MetaMask, and do that. Whereas here, you just approve it once, and then it goes week on week, week on week, week on week, right? So the question is, you sign once, and then the whole thing goes. Now let us take another very interesting example: the gaming, right? So let us say there is a whole lot of Web3 gaming. In games, what happens is every time you win some reward, you get an NFT. Like you level up, you get an NFT, or you need to buy an NFT to be able to participate in a game, and all of these kinds of things. So which means every user interaction which has a material impact on the game will give you a transaction to sign. So imagine you're playing, let us say, I don't know, something like Age of Empires. You kill someone, you get some points, and the points to be added to your wallet. Now you need to go sign a transaction. Or you're buying a new sword, you need to sign a transaction. So what the smart contract wallets allow you to do is what is called as a session key, right? So you can say, hey, for this session, for the next 24 hours, sign all the transactions in the background. Don't interrupt me. So we call this as no prompt signing. So the signing is happening. You're playing your game. You won a sword, right? You won a shield. You powered up. You boosted through. You went through and smashed your enemies and leveled up and all that. And you don't have to sign any. But the question is, all of these transactions are signed for you on your behalf in the background using the concept of session keys, right? So all of these are very, very powerful concepts that allow for a very interesting set of use cases to come on DeFi, on GameFi. Now there's SocialFi as well, right? So all of these, and it works really well. Yeah.
So, like as you mentioned in the gamify sector, like we used to get some, you can say assets we have to claim, or maybe some points we have to claim. That can also be done with a specified period of time if we sign the
Exactly.
transaction, right?
Exactly. So essentially, what you're saying is you're asking the smart contract to say sign transactions on your behalf for a given period of time, right? And it just takes care of it for you.
Nice. So, like this is systematic plan investment is also a very cool feature. Like I have been doing this on centralized exchanges. So if this is provided in the decentralized way or in the smart wallet, then this is very good feature to keep the custody of those assets also. Like we don't have to wait for to be stored on the centralized exchanges to do the
Exactly.
SIP. So, sir, looking ahead, like as I saw, upcoming features are like crypto cards and spending limits are also coming soon in the wallet. And also, like crypto cards is one of the great use case in crypto that we can see, like to make the payments frequently as we do with the Visa or Mastercards today. So, maybe can you please give a brief overview for that?
For sure. I think this is one feature we are incredibly excited about. Right. So when we started talking to users to say, hey, what are all the things that I can do in Web3? I can mint an NFT, I can go into DeFi, I can play a GameFi, or I can go to Friend Tech and then buy some shares of a friend, SocialFi, all of these kinds of things. But then again, I want to buy a coffee. I want to take a taxi ride. I want to pay for my insurance. I want to pay for my rent. Right. I want to pay for my conference ticket. All of these questions started coming by. And how do I do that? So right now, if in case you already have a crypto, the only option for you to do is convert that crypto either through an OTC desk or go to a centralized exchange, convert that fiat and do all of these things. Right? What if you had a card associated with your wallet? So which means any money in your wallet can be spent by just using that card. You go to Starbucks, you pay for that and buy a coffee, you take a Ola ride or Uber ride or Rapido ride, you pay for that with your card, all of these things. So the idea is how do you enable day-to-day utility? And that's what we're working on. Right. So essentially what we're doing is we are utilizing the capability of account abstraction and smart contract wallets to be able to build what is called as a signer module on top of your wallet, which you would have pre-authorized to say, hey, whenever a card is presented and it comes and requests for funds, please allow that transaction to go through. Please allow that to go to that particular card account only. You can't go anywhere else, right? So that way there is a 1:1 connection, and then you're able to spend the dollars or the funds in the wallet for your day-to-day transactions. And then there's also comes another interesting thing. Say, hey, what if in case somebody takes over my card and all of that? So there are interesting concepts like two-factor authentication, other things like spending limits. A typical debit card has a spending limit, right? You can't withdraw more than, let's say, 25,000
Right.
per day with in an ATM. or a 50,000, depending on the kind of card you have, right? So those are the restrictions that you can set up. So as a user, you can say, hey, you know what? I don't want to any transaction to spend more than $100 from my wallet in one transaction unless I explicitly authorize it with a two-factor authentication. So which means now you can freely connect your wallet to any app, right? And say, I don't have to worry. I just connect this, and I know that there is no transaction going to be more than $100. Of course, it can be $1, it can be 1 cent, it can be $1,000, depending on what is the threshold that you like to set up, right? And when the threshold is breached, the wallet is going to ask you, hey, by the way, looks like the threshold is breached. Can you please give me two-factor authentication? So when you do that, and that's when the wallet allows the transaction to go through. So this brings in that peace of mind to say, hey, my funds are under my control, and even if somebody fishes me, I just lose a small amount and I don't get the whole thing, and I hopefully become wise and don't fall into that trap next time around.
So like yeah, spending with crypto, or like you can say crypto cards, is one of the like really cool feature, like because everyone is earning maybe like through various methods, maybe NFT, GameFi, or fintech, or any platform. But uh, the real problem comes in, where do we spend?
Mhm.
For spending those cryptos, we have to encash them. So this is
Yes.
the right feature, like we can use directly our cryptos with the crypto cards. Great.
Exactly. So it just doesn't become play anymore, or it does just
Hmm.
become speculation anymore. It becomes a real utility for
Right,
day-to-day
right.
stuff. Yes,
Yeah, like you learn and earn the by doing the transactions and making the DeFi and NFT transactions and any other, and directly you can spend those cryptos earned.
exactly. Exactly. Not only that, right? There are a whole lot of
Hmm.
freelancers, a whole lot
Hmm.
of gig workers who
Yeah.
essentially earn in crypto.
Hmm.
Why is this? Because it helps them get the money immediately,
Hmm.
right? And it doesn't worry about cross-border stuff, right?
Yeah.
It's very easy for you to send any money from, say, Australia
Hmm.
to Alaska. Right? It just happens in a matter of seconds,
Yeah,
right?
like
So,
yeah, like this
yep,
use case was like crypto and Bitcoin, all of this started because of this one limitation that we had for the cross border transactions, and taking 2 to 3 days for the international transactions and all that. So this is what crypto is solving. So this is very good feature if we get the crypto cards associated with our wallets, so where we can spend, right? So
exactly.
sir, like any last piece of advice for the listeners, and where they can use an obvious smart wallet?
But definitely, I think for people who are on the edge, who are still thinking, hey, should I do this? Should I try this out? Definitely, you should try this out,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then again, if in case you're looking at speculation, right, exchanges are the right place to do it. All right, so please put your money into an
Mm-hmm.
exchange like a CoinDesk or a CoinSwitch or a Zirex, and then do the speculation there. But if in case you're looking for utility, then I would say, hey, Obvious is the right choice for you to do that. One, it allows you to get started really easily. Second, it makes it extremely easy for you to do your transactions like swapping, bridging, minting, sending, receiving, all of these kinds of things, right? And third, if in case you're looking to onboard somebody in your network onto crypto, I would strongly suggest, yes, I know you are using MetaMask, but to give Obvious a try, because the onboarding effort for you is going to be extremely limited because we do all the heavy lifting. You just have to
Hmm.
ask your friend, hey, just try Obvious, and if you're stuck, ask me, right? And I want to put this out as a challenge for the viewers, right? Ask two of your friends to say, hey, on board with MetaMask and on board with Obvious, and see which of them leads to more
Right,
follow
right.
ups, right? So we try to make things obvious for you. That is one thing. Second thing, please do give the smart contract wallet a try. And if in case you are doing it this week, we have all transactions on Polygon POS and Polygon ZK. We have Obvious platform fee is zero. So to make it really easy for you to give it a try. All right, please do give it a try. And every week we are going to open it for new and new chains. All right, so please do give it a try and let us know what do you think.
So like yeah, I would also suggest, like as sir has explained all the features and how easy and convenient they are trying to build and onboard the users, I would just say like MetaMask is also good, but as sir mentioned, it is for the developer users focused. But as if you are the retailer or maybe a newbie getting into crypto, so we need this type of easy wallet to make the transactions. So their obvious wallet comes in, and you should definitely give a try. Like, maybe after this podcast and this conversation, I'm going to ditch the MetaMask and start using obvious.
No, please don't ditch. I think use both. They have their own use cases. But if you're starting new, definitely obvious works. For some advanced use cases where you need to add the custom RPC, like I said, hey, you're trying out a new testnet. They're giving you some incentives. Definitely, MetaMask helps.
Yeah, like
There's a
for
place
the
for every wallet. Yeah,
yeah, like for the daily uses, or like maybe transaction or day trading, definitely I'll use obvious. Like for
exactly.
testnet purposes, like maybe new testnet comes to give it a try, that can go with the MetaMask wallet. So that's
Fantastic.
the point. So yeah, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for taking the time and giving so much descriptive answers to the audience and adding value to the listeners. Thank you so much.
Yep. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. You have a wonderful day.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.